So welcome to Unit 7. So Unit 7 is our final unit. It is our conclusion unit. And it's basically where you have the opportunity to show off everything that you've learned this semester. So as you guys should know by now, we are going to be in Unit 7 in our OneNote. We're going to be under Final Showcase, and there's a bunch of pages that we are going to talk through a little bit today so that you guys have an idea of what we're doing. So if everyone could pull that open to the description tab that I have pulled up at this moment, then you should be able to follow along, and hopefully everyone will understand exactly what your expectations are. So the big thing to know is that even though this is Unit 7, everything that we do for this unit regarding our final showcase is going to count towards our final exam grade. So I've mentioned that your final exam grade is going to be an event that is outside of school. So on the description tab here, you are going to see the details about that event. So here you can see that the event will take place on this day. You have to be there at this specific time to set up. So you are going to be in Barnes Hall, and you have to get all of your stuff that you need to set up from my classroom, from the shop, from your cabinet space, and set it up in Barnes. So everyone is expected to arrive by 5:30 p.m. Your parents, siblings, grandparents, teachers, etc., everyone will be available to come in starting at 6 p.m. So your actual event is going to run from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. I, in total, expect you to be at the event for 2 hours, which is 5:30 to 7:30. So this includes 30 minutes for setup, an hour for the event, and 30 minutes for teardown. And honestly, our teardown normally goes a lot quicker than that, and so you can probably expect to be out of there before 7:30. But these are 2 hours that you absolutely 100% must be present at this event in order to receive a grade. The only exceptions for not being here have to be under extenuating circumstances. So if you have a funeral to go to, that would be a reason not to be there. If you are physically incapable because you are literally so sick that your doctor says you are not allowed to be there, then that would be an extenuating circumstance. But having practice, that is not a valid excuse not to be there. Whether that's school practice or club practice, you have to be here. This is like a choir rehearsal after school, but more important because it counts as your final exam grade. This is the one time that I require you to be doing something outside of the classroom, and so you absolutely have to be there no matter what. So basically, let's talk about what you're actually going to be doing. So we have been working on all sorts of different types of engineering, and hopefully you guys have learned something along the way, at least about what different kinds of engineering exist, how to work in teams, how to collaborate and problem solve. And then this will be a good opportunity for you to share that experience with your teachers, with your parents, with your siblings, that kind of thing. You'll see at the bottom that it says that anyone from the public is invited to attend. In addition to that, all attendees will have the opportunity to vote for a team for each of the following categories: most professional, most creative, and most knowledgeable. So this is where you guys really want to stand out from other people, from other groups, is that you want to be trying for most professional, most creative, and most knowledgeable. So the scoop is going to be that a parent can only vote for their student one time. So I know that all of your parents want you to win all of the awards, but they're not allowed to vote for you multiple times. So if they think you're most professional, that's great. That's what they'll vote for you. And then they'll have to vote most creative and most knowledgeable for different groups. Okay? So this is the information that you need about what the event is. So let's go to checklist. So here at the very top, you can see what time you guys are going to have in class to work on this. And I would like to point out that you have a lot of time in class to work on this, which means I have very high expectations for the material that you guys are going to put together. So you guys have done a lot of work this semester, and I expect that to be presented well. I want you guys to really show off to your parents and to me, because this is your final exam grade. Look at all of these days that I'm giving you in class to work on this assignment. So this is graded as a group. That means that I expect you guys to work on it as a group, but I do not expect you guys to work on this outside of class as a group because I'm already giving you so much time. So here's a short checklist of things that you guys should be thinking about. You're going to first determine what you want the layout of your poster board to be, and I'm going to show you an example of what your poster board should look like. You are going to have to buy and bring in your poster board. Someone from your group is required to bring in your poster board. You only need one poster board per group, and they are at most maybe $15. So if everyone in your group contributed $4, then everyone can contribute to pay for the poster board, and it's not some financial burden on everyone. You also need to figure out what art supplies need to be brought in. So I expect your boards to look professional. It can be creative and fun and colorful, but I also need it to look good. And so pencil on white paper is just not going to cut it for what I'm looking for this assignment. You are also going to have to answer the questions for the assigned units. We'll talk about this in just a second. You will answer the teamwork questions. You will make sure that your innovation and service unit paragraphs are ready to go. So your innovation and service is your project where you guys created a solution to a problem that existed that met a community need. And so I'll show you guys what that means as well. You're going to have to print off all of these answered questions to put onto your poster board. You're going to make your poster board look absolutely amazing. You're going to use photos, decorations, etc. And then you're going to display whatever your required items are at your event. So depending on what unit you are assigned, will determine which items you need to have displayed at your event. So let's actually go to the trifold example next because I want you guys to see what your poster board is going to look like. So all I did was I double clicked on the PDF up here. It's going to pull up the same thing that's already shown. So I'm going to preview it so that I can see it kind of oriented the right way. So you guys are going to get a tri-fold poster board, meaning that like these are the wings on the left and the right hand side, and they fold over into the middle, so close it up. You'll see examples of trifolds in the classroom, so you'll know exactly what poster board you should get. You are going to see that on the left hand side, you are going to answer some questions about the engineering design process, and you are also going to answer questions about your collaboration or teamwork. So on the checklist, when it said answer teamwork questions, this is what it's talking about. So those things will go on the left wing of your poster board. On the right wing of your poster board, you will have your assigned unit. So each group is going to be assigned one of the 4 units we did. So your group will either be assigned to talk about aerospace, material science, software engineering, or biomedical. You do not have to do all 4 units like some groups have done in the past. And then there are a specific set of questions that you need to answer for that specific unit. So because they're different for each unit, I have not included them here. I will show you where to find them in just a minute. And then in the big middle of your poster board is going to be your innovation in service project. Now, the good thing is you already have all of these paragraphs written. So all of the things that it looks like you need, you have already written all of these paragraphs. Okay, there's just going to need to be some edits that might need to be made. For example, where it says background and research, it says you have already written 2 to 4 paragraphs for your introduction report. Include no more than 2 paragraphs on your poster board. That means that if your original background and research was 3 or 4 paragraphs, you will need to simplify it down to 2. So make sure that you have no more than 2 paragraphs for your background and research. Also note that your teacher has put comments and notes when they graded your background and research. So it would be beneficial to you to go into your background and research, into your introduction report, look at those comments, maybe make any grammar corrections, maybe add anything that your teacher recommended, and then put it into your project, onto your poster board. Remember that your teacher does have very high expectations because this is counting as your final exam. So then the next one says stakeholders. You have already written paragraphs for your introduction report. Include your paragraphs on your poster board. So if you don't have any edits to make, if your stakeholders paragraph was perfect, then you will literally just take that paragraph and you'll put it under stakeholders. And then you'll be able to put it onto your poster board. So it's really not as much writing as it looks like it should be, but I want you guys to see generally how it should be laid out. And the reason I have it laid out like this is because every group will be assigned a unit that they are discussing. Every group will talk about the engineering design process and collaboration, because I've told you that those are some of the most important things that I want you guys to learn from this class. And then each group will have a unique innovation and service project that they'll talk about here in the middle. Now, just because I require you to include all of these different paragraphs, and I do want you to do them in this order because that is the engineering design process, even though I have all these paragraphs I want, it would be extremely beneficial to you to include many pictures, okay? So even though there are lots of paragraphs that need to be put here, I also expect you to have photos and descriptions and these kinds of things to help your audience visualize what's going on, okay? So it can be things that you find on the Google, it can be pictures that you've taken of your actual project, of your testing process, or whatever you so choose. All right, so this is a general layout for the trifold poster. Before we get too much farther, if you go to the page that says EDP graphic, you might remember that on your trifold poster board, you see that you are talking about the engineering design process, and you have that here, and we brought that up multiple times in class. Here on the EDP graphic, it says you must include this graphic on your poster board. That means that you must include that graphic on your poster board. So you can double click it, it will open it up, and it'll be the same thing that I have on the example. And then you can print that off in color. If you can't print it off in color at school, then make sure you print it off in color at home to make sure that it is included onto your poster board. All right, so the next thing that we should look at is the assigned unit questions. So if everyone goes and we click on this, it says these are the assigned unit questions. Check out this document to figure out which unit your group is assigned to. So if we double click on this document, it will open up. And it says these groups have been set, so there's no negotiating or disputing. They are final. Groups are assigned to one of the 4 units that we discussed in class. So make sure that you look at what group you are in and what unit you are assigned to. So for this particular example, we have period 1, group 2 is assigned to material science. So group 2 does not have to do anything related to aerospace. Group 2 does not have to do anything related to software engineering or biomed. Group 2 only has to worry about material science. So what does this mean? If we go back to our OneNote, you can see that 1/3 of your poster board will be answering questions related to the unit which you have been assigned. You do not need to answer questions related to the other units. Double click on the unit below that your group has been assigned to. This will tell you which questions must be answered for that unit and included on your poster board. So, on our example, this right-hand side, that's where these questions are going to go. So period 1, group 2 has material science. So material science would be written up here. And then they would only have to answer the questions related to material science. So you can see on our unit questions here that this is material science. I can double click, and then you can see that these are the questions that must be answered for material science in that section of their poster board. You'll also see at the bottom that every single unit says, in addition to answering these questions on your board, your team must bring your blank. So for material science, your team must bring your biodegradable forks to the event to display. For biomed, you have to answer the questions, and then you have to bring a wiffle ball encapsulation to the event. Make sure you have one made before the day of the event and bring it to your table in Barnes on the day of the event. For software engineering, you have to answer the questions, and then in addition to that, your group must bring an iPad to display your Puzzle World on your table. Assign someone from your team who has completed the Puzzle World project to bring a charged iPad. So you will be graded on your answering of the questions and into what additional things you were supposed to bring in for your presentation. Your group must bring your satellite to the event. Your group should touch up your satellite to make sure everything is intact and looks good for display. So I've told you guys to save these things all along. I've kept everything in your cabinet space so that you should have everything that you need. Hopefully you haven't thrown anything away because I told you were going to need them. And just make sure that you are paying attention to not only the questions that you have to answer and put on your poster board, but also to what things you need to bring in. There is one thing that I want to clear up real quick about this event. So just to be clear, from 6 to 7 p.m., you are going to be standing at your table, ready to go, and speaking to all of the people who come up to you. So I want you guys to understand that you do not have like a specific presentation time where you present to the entire group. So this is going to be like a kind of STEM fair table walkthrough event. This is when we used to do it in the student union or in the library at the time. And it'll be a similar setup in Barnes. But all of the groups have their tables set up. And then parents and siblings, teachers, etc. can walk through and they'll walk up to your table and ask you questions. So you have to be ready to answer questions from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and address anyone who comes to your table, but you do not have to have a formal presentation. You will not be like doing a public speaking thing where you have to make a presentation in front of everyone all at once. People are not going to sit down and listen to a bunch of presentations. It is going to be a walkthrough event. So you'll stand at your table for the entire time and you'll present what you know to the people who approach your station. So I just want to make sure that that's clear because I don't want you guys to think that there's some huge public speaking element or you have to have some sort of presentation prepared and ready to go. You do have to be ready to answer questions and talk about what you've learned, but you do not have to present in front of the entire group at a specific time. So with that, let's go to the rubric to look to see how you are going to be scored for this event. So remember that this event counts as your final exam grade, which means that you have to be there and you have to take it seriously because it is 20% of your overall grade for the semester. So that means if you got 100% in my class third quarter, you got 100% in my class fourth quarter, and you didn't show up for the event, and you got a 0% on your final exam grade, the best you could do for the semester would be an 80% B-. So this is a huge part of what you guys do for your semester grade. So this is really important that you take it seriously, that you use your time wisely in class during your preparation days, and that you ask any questions you might have for the teacher who's going to be grading you. Okay? So how are you going to be graded? You are going to be graded in 3 different categories: in attire, table presentation, and verbal presentation. Let's talk about attire first. So 20 out of the 100 points of your final exam grade is going to be based on attire. You guys are professionals. You know more about this stuff than your parents because you're the ones who have been in class all semester. You know what you've learned. You know what we've been working on. And you need to look the part. So what I'm asking for is that your students or your team members are dressed professionally. This can be khakis, slacks, dress shirts, etc. So what I expect from you is that you are dressed up. So this not only means you have to be in dress code, but this is more professional than just regular dress code. I do not require ties. I do not require a dress or a skirt for young ladies, but I do require you to be dressed up. The rule is that you're not allowed to wear jeans. The exception to the rule is that if you have black jeans that can look professional and then you wear some sort of blouse or sweater or whatever on top, that is completely fine with me because I know not everyone has dress pants, okay? So what I expect is for you guys to be dressed up. So this should be a pretty easy way to get 20 points. Most people do very well on this. Again, this should be 20 easy points for your final exam grade. The next is your table presentation. So this is 50 points out of 100. So your presentation should be exceptional. Your sections should be colorful, easy to read, and your layout should be organized. So this is talking about your poster board and anything that you have set out on your table. So if you were assigned to set out your satellite, that would include your satellite. If you were assigned to set out your puzzle world, that would include your puzzle world. If you built something for your innovation and service project, this would include whatever build you had for your prototype. So whatever you have, make sure that it looks professional, neat, organized, but it also has to be colorful. You're putting a lot of words onto this poster board, so make sure that they're able to be read, that kind of thing. If it is sloppy, if you're missing several components, if you didn't answer all of the questions that you were assigned to, that's when you would get minimal credit. So this should also be a fairly easy 50 points because you are given so much time in class to work on things. So this is something that is completely done before the day of the event, and this is what you're using your time in class to work on, is this 50 points right here. The last 30 points of your final is going to be your verbal presentation. So students must be obviously knowledgeable about the course content, and you can accurately and eloquently answer questions. Students work well as a team and engage attendees. So this is the part where you might actually have to study a little bit. You need to make sure that you know what is on your poster board, and if anyone asks you questions about it, you are able to answer the questions. If you are assigned the biomedical engineering unit and they say, why do you have a wiffle ball here, or what does the Kool-Aid represent, you need to be able to answer those questions and have it be relevant to what we've learned in the course. In addition to not only knowing what you're talking about, you also have to work well with your team. So you shouldn't be talking over each other. You shouldn't be interrupting one another. You should be sharing the answers, meaning that one person doesn't answer every question all the time. It is a team effort. The teacher who grades you for your final is going to walk around and observe whether or not you are engaging with people, whether or not you are being professional, how you are answering questions, and how you are working with your teammates. In addition to that, your teacher will go up to every single group and ask just one question about the unit, the innovation and service project, teamwork, whatever it may be, something from this semester. And in how your team answers that question, as well as how they interact with other attendees, is going to determine the last 30 points of your grade. If you go to this page here, questions for verbal presentation, you are going to see some examples of questions that your teacher might ask about your semester. So at the top, you'll see a few general questions about how the engineering process is used, how you worked as a team, that kind of thing. And then depending on the unit that you were assigned, you may have to answer questions related to that unit as well. Remember that if you were assigned to materials science, you do not need to be prepared to answer questions about software engineering. Okay, so you only have to be qualified in the one unit that you've been assigned, but you do have to know that unit inside and out so that if anyone asks you questions, you're able to describe it. Everyone should know what materials science is if you are presenting that unit. Okay, so here are some ideas about questions that you may be asked. Here are some also communication tips for your team. It is really important that you guys sound like a team. You've been together for the entire semester, and the reason that we do that is because you should be functioning like a well-oiled machine now. So that means that you are not speaking over each other, you're not arguing with each other, you're not correcting each other in front of other people. You're supportive, you can ask questions, and then also speak in sentences, not paragraphs. So make sure that while you're answering the questions well, you're not keeping someone there for 4 or 5 minutes just over describing everything that you did, okay? So that is going to be how you do well on your verbal presentation. So hopefully at this point, you guys have a good idea about what the event is going to look like and how you are going to be scored. I cannot emphasize enough that this is going to be your final exam grade, and so you should treat it like a final exam grade. So just make sure that you are taking it seriously and preparing when you are given time in class. So what you guys are going to do now is you are going to start working on your checklist. So you guys need to figure out, number one, who is bringing in the poster board. This poster board needs to be brought in no later than the date listed here. That is because you have to start putting things on it, because I expect you to have a professional and fun-looking poster board, and you can't do that unless you're working on it in class, okay? So figure out who is going to bring in your poster board, number one. Number two, I want you to start thinking about the layout of your poster board. I understand that everyone's poster board is going to follow this general layout as I've given to you and described to you. But you still have to find all of the answers to those questions. You still have to dig up your innovation in service paragraphs and reports that you turned in and maybe make some edits on those. You still need to answer the questions for your assigned unit. So there are plenty of things for you guys to be working on, and I expect you to start making some moves on that today in class. Remember that you will continue getting a participation grade, which will count towards this quarter. And so if your teacher sees that you are not using your time wisely, that you are off task, they will take points off from your participation grade right now. I do expect you to take this seriously as a final project, and I will give you as much time in class as long as you guys are using it well. So if you stop using your time well in class, then we can start doing extra assignments instead of having the prep time as a group. So just make sure that you guys are being focused and getting things ready for this final project. It's 20% of your semester exam grade. So good luck.